Okay, so hi, I'm Helena, one of the social work students at Farmworth, and this is...
I'm Astrid, I'm one of the BA social work students at Farmworth as well.
So today we're with Dr. Joey Webber, and we're going to be looking into mindfulness. So much research has been undertaken into mindfulness during the past 20 years, and peer-reviewed evidence shows that mindfulness can lead to improved physical and mental well-being, including improving emotional reactions to pain and helping treat anxiety and mood problems. So as social workers, we're dealing with highly stressful situations on a daily basis, and we're trying to incorporate mindfulness into our own routines and helping to guide other people so that they can hopefully better deal with the mental health and stress in their lives.
Wonderful, thanks for the introduction as well. Hi, I'm Joey, nice to be here.
Nice to have you. So can you tell us a bit about mindfulness and what exactly it is? So first question, what is mindfulness?
What is mindfulness? It's a big question, that. So do you know what mindfulness is?
Not 100%. I've done a little bit of like safe place and stuff like that, but I'm not really great on the definition of it.
Okay, and do you have any idea?
I know it's to do with sort of grounding and getting your thoughts, concentrating on the breath.
Okay.
That's about all I know.
Yeah, there's
relaxing
elements of that in there. Yeah, so it's complicated when you say what is something, because it's like, something can be an umbrella term, like mindfulness can mean so much. So if you can have like a clinical definition of it, a definition of mindfulness that you'd see in kind of academic books, or just for the layperson to understand what it is it's about. I guess you could also look at the meditation aspect and define it from that perspective. And you could also look at it as a mindfulness-based intervention type program. So like mindfulness-based stress reduction or mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. So when you're asking like what is mindfulness, I guess the easiest way to start it is by saying it's about being in the present moment, which sounds quite simple, but it's on a very, very subtle level about on moment-to-moment awareness. So it's using your awareness and full attention to just be here now. And non-judgmentally is the other aspect that always comes in. So with a kind of an open curiosity as well. So it's an open awareness of the present moment as it unfolds.
Right. So can anybody do mindfulness?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that everyone can do mindfulness. I mean, of course, the different stages for different age ranges would probably be advocated, or different methods and practices.
Can you tell us a bit more about the different methods for different ages?
Well, I just think you're asking about social work.
Yeah. Well, as social workers, obviously, there's different age ranges. There's the young students coming straight from college, or there's the older ones like myself, who've been around the block. I was going to say, but we've been around a while.
I think, So in general, if you're teaching the adult population, then it's all focused around the breath as well. Because the breath is really what anchors us to the present moment. If you think the mind, actually when you look at the mind, it's full of thoughts. And there's research out there to show that there's tens of thousands of thoughts per day that we have. And the problem with the thinking is that the majority of these thoughts can be negative. And they tend to arise from the subconscious. So, we could be sat here now talking, and then suddenly we feel in a bad mood. And we don't know why. And it could be that our awareness is not that in tune with our own thinking, that we're not fully aware of our thoughts as they arise. So when we talk about the methods, we're looking at anchoring with the breath to guide us to the present moment, to get that bit of grounding, as you said earlier, to be in this present moment. Otherwise, we're constantly thinking about things, thinking of the next question, thinking of the next thing, when can I leave, all this type of stuff. And the present moment always gets dissipated. Right. And that's problematic when we're in helping professions, because we try and give our full tenderness and care to the service user or the client. But a large part of the time, we ourselves are not fully there, especially in high pressurized professions like social work, because we have so many demands on us. We could be going from client to client, and there's an awful lot of responsibility that is on our shoulders. So just to give the simple act of being there fully, mentally fully there, is actually difficult.
So can you do like little bits of mindfulness throughout your day, or is it like, I don't know, like you have to sit down and do about 20 minutes or something, or is the little acts of mindfulness that when you say, like with us as social workers, you come out of a visit, it might be really stressful and you might want to just take that moment there and then to kind of feel grounded. Is that something that you can do?
Yeah, totally. I think there's obviously there's the meditation stuff, the theory stuff, the blah blah stuff, and there's also the meditation, and that's when you're actively trying it. And it is useful to do formal sitting meditation in like in the morning or the evening, because that really helps kind of prepare yourself. But at the same time, you just use that exact same psychology and principles during the day within stressful environments. So it could be at lunch times, at breaks, 5 minutes before you see the next service user. And that's where you actively, consciously try and focus and put your full attention and awareness on the breath in a bit to consciously ground yourself, so you're actively playing a role rather than just, I've got 5 minutes free, I'll just, go on the phone and scrum and this is my downtime.
Which is what we all do recently.
That's what we all do. So it's a little bit like the gym, you can do full-on cardio sessions, which are great, they have great benefit, don't they? But you can also do little tiny things in the day. You do press-ups or something when you've got a spare few moments. So it's a little bit like that with meditation.
But even things like yoga, maybe, I don't know if does that connect with mindfulness, because that's sort of where you're stretching your body and you're exercising in other parts, but that's all essential as to the cardio, as relaxing is essential as well. And I suppose that may be the same in social work, where we're running around, going to different people, and then you need to also take that time, that self-care for yourself, isn't it? And that's, imagine where that comes in. I'm explaining myself.
No, totally. Yeah, yoga's got aspects of awareness in there. Of course, it's used for different methods behind it about what you're trying to achieve in that specific time. But it does have this calming, element with it when you're focusing your breath and focusing on aspects of your body. So they're much kind of the same. Same side of the same coin, if you like. But I guess the other thing to mention is that when you become really used to it and you become aware of how chaotic the mind can be, like a wild animal running loose, and kind of bringing it back. Bringing it back. It's the bringing it back that is the meditation. So effectively, you can do that all day. So then, in that context, your whole life could be a meditation. Your whole waking life. That's what I've heard.
I like that.
John Kabat-Zinn has said that, and he's kind of one of the founders of mindfulness-based stress reduction, and he talks about mindfulness beautifully in some of his books. And the whole life is a meditation. To get us away from the idea of I've got to do this now, half an hour, nothing else, no distractions. And of course, you sit down and kids start screaming and the cat's at the door, and you can't, you get stressed out in trying to create that protective time. It never works. So really, you should be loose and open and relaxed with it. And the more you can embody that and embrace that, then everything's an opportunity. Going to the bathroom, having a shower, brushing your teeth. It can all be done mindfully. Yeah,
I know some people might be a bit wary to try it if maybe they're spiritual or they're religious. They might think, is it going to is it wrong to do in my religion? Because like yoga can be associated with maybe Buddhism, can't it? And so do you have to be spiritual?
Yeah, not at all. This is why it's kind of become a big phenomenon now in the West because of its secular nature. So if you want to be really, historical and get into the nitty-gritty of where things come from, I think every time you reach that point, just another whole thing opens where it's come from. All I know is that there is a mindfulness or a form of mindfulness in all major religions, spiritual traditions. Everyone prays or has time for contemplation.
True.
If you take away the content of the prayer, then it's the recitation, the constant, that is the actual usefulness that is some part. So it can be everywhere in Buddhism and Christianity and Judaism, whatever it is. So all of that has traces of it, but of course that's got its own religious package with it. And obviously we're not interested in that.
No.
As a psychology, as a professional context, we're looking at the secular nature, and that's why these courses have been so wonderful, because it's been able to let's look at the root of what this is, what it does to the mind. And then of course we've been so lucky to have neuroscience alongside doing studies on these programs, and the actual fact going, wow, look what happens when we just quiet the mind and we utilise our focus and attention. It's actually quite transformative.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's just taking that time for self-care as well, isn't it? Which is important in social work.
Yeah.
Just taking that time for you.
And I think not just within social work, I think it's something that can be used quite broadly, can't it? Everyone can use it, everyone can access it. It's not something that you may need to go to a class for or something like that. There's a lot of information online, books and videos where you can follow these things and just get into it at your own pace as well, isn't it? Like learning how to do it. I think I've seen quite a few YouTube videos on beginners and getting into it. So everyone can access it and use it, which is really good. I think us as social workers, we could use it. Also, our service users and other professionals and just everyone really.
Yeah, there's loads of resources. That's really good and useful because it obviously enables you to just access anything anytime. It still would definitely recommend the kind of formalised training too, because the mind's untrained, it is like a wild animal, and it will not prioritise it whatsoever. You'll start telling yourself reasons why you can't do it. It'll always be tomorrow.
Yeah, we do that quite a lot.
Yeah. And that sometimes it can be a negative thing, having all these free resources. Oh look, I can do it anytime. Put that in the back pocket now.
Yeah, that's
and now let's concentrate on what I was chaotic about anyway. So it's a bit of a balance. If you're mindful enough to be aware of your mindlessness, then you can use it as and when. But it's often the fact that with an untrained mind, we're constantly so subtly non-aware and so driven by our sense pleasures. We're constantly trying to get all these things that we think make us happy, etc. That something like this, which is fairly, it's not going to give you an instant fix gratification that we're used to in society nowadays. So it takes time and effort, and people sometimes might not like that. Because they just get free after 10 minutes. Do I feel nice?
Yeah, we want that instant, don't we? We want that instant feeling better.
Yeah.
So would you recommend maybe some classes of going to mindfulness classes or?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And when you first practice, you need a guide as well. Someone there. It could be an app or whatever. Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer. These are three kind of really big global apps. They have some resources there that help guide you to it, because when you close your eyes and you start trying to be mindful, you start thinking about stuff, and then you don't know where you're at, and it could be a whole host of past memories, could be a whole host of future anxieties, could be all mental images, from the day, and it's not easy to just do that. So you need to hear someone kind of guiding you at the beginning, and then maybe within time you can wean yourself off and try and do a bit more practice by yourself.
Yeah. So if you find yourself falling asleep when you're doing mindfulness, is that normal, and is that good for you, or is that bad for you?
Well, it's very common, and for the first and foremost, if you think about what you're doing with the mind, you are relaxing yourself, and it's mind and body as well. So the body scan, which is a big part of mindfulness, is consciously relaxing aspects of your body with your own awareness. So the first thing you're going to feel is relaxed. So when you're not used to that, and if you are particularly in a stressful environment, then the first thing you're going to do is nod off. And that's okay, because it might be that you just need loads of relaxation right now, or some sleep. And basically that shouldn't put you off. It's enjoy the relaxation for that period. But then, of course, don't try and become awake with it when you're doing it and a bit more conscious of it.
So the more, basically, it's like anything, the more you practice it, the better, and the less chance of falling asleep.
You might want to just use it for sleep. So 20 minutes before bed. What we do is we scroll, don't we, on our phones, social media this, like that, who's like my stuff, like. You're waking yourself up and then going, right, it's bedtime now. Doesn't work. So you can do a meditation beforehand, and that will get you to sleep. Use it for that, brilliant. But then it's in the day, you're trying it, and then does it get you to sleep? Then that's when you don't want it to. You try and become a little bit more aware of the quality and the tenacity of the breath, perhaps, like the clarity. Sometimes on the inhale you can get a bit more refreshing. Really like subtle stuff, but you can try and do that in the day.
So do you find that it makes you breathing easier as well? You can hold your breath for maybe longer, or does that not affect it really?
Well, I think the breath is a good question, because we tend to have shallow breaths. We tend to breathe quite like shallow and from using the top portion of our lungs. And actually they're a lot bigger than we think, and we don't utilise it a lot. So I think it'll bring more awareness to your breathing. And in doing so, it enables you to go a bit deeper, and that might have quite profound emotional regulative effects on the brain and body. So it won't automatically alter your breathing. And sometimes, it might be good to do 3 deliberate, conscious, equal breaths of like 4 in, 4 out, for example, seconds to just settle you. But then we should, try and just do it naturally. Because your lungs actually breathe for you. When we're thinking and planning and cooking, still breathing.
We're not thinking about our breaths, are we? We're not thinking about our
unconscious breathers, aren't we?
And we sleep and we're not thinking about breathing. So your lungs do their job incredibly well. But don't pay attention to that process. And just by doing that, it feels quite nice. And it calms you.
Would you recommend it with people with anxiety? Because I know, like panic attacks and things like that, it can be about calming your breath. Would you recommend people who have anxiety do a bit of mindfulness just to try and be in tune with the breathing?
I think definitely it's something that is looked at. The thing is with all these things, when you think of it as like a medication or in this case a meditation, but it's always seen as, right, when someone's really stressed and anxious, now try it. And it's always too late then.
I see what you mean.
So it needs to really be preventative. Why are we waiting until the population's depressed and anxious before trying something new? So I would advise it as a preventative thing. It would probably help alleviate some future anxieties.
Sounds like it needs to be taught in schools, so children growing up can learn how to calm themselves.
Definitely, that's a really good idea.
There's a movement in schools. It's just not as mainstream as everything, because it's not necessarily prioritised. You think about GCSEs, you want the whole knowledge-based stuff, and this is the kind of subjective feeling-based stuff.
Well, that could help with the transition, couldn't it, through the GCSEs and them being able to calm themselves through that process. That could really help.
There's the Mindfulness in Schools project. They have lots of training that they do with schools around the country.
That's really good.
So it is happening. It's just not as mainstream as just.
So do you think maybe social media is helping to portray about mindfulness, get the word out there and put useful apps on there? You mentioned Headspace. Do you think it's positive towards mindfulness?
Social media, it's always the double-edged sword, isn't it? It's like, it's with everything. Your intention behind what you're doing. If you're going to use social media for a specific purpose and for engaging with others and connecting and things like that, then it's useful. But if you're just using it as a distraction, your mind's so chaotic, so you're just visually playing that out, really, aren't you? And just seeking some form of pleasure. Because we do get tiny, tiny little hits of pleasure when we have these screens. That's why we're also addicted. So we're we're a little bit getting zombified. So bringing awareness to that via mindfulness will help you have more hygienic patterns with your devices.
Okay, because
So
the world a lot is on social media, isn't it?
everyone's on it.
Yeah.
Everyone's on it, and it can be brilliant because it's got free resources. You can get apps within seconds, education within seconds. Brilliant. But the person who's controlling the device isn't necessarily fully aware of or conscious of what they're doing. So in that case, it can become a source of addiction, and it can become a source of comparing to others. It can become a source of like divisiveness. You know, don't like that group, like this group, don't agree with that, like that policy, blah, blah, blah. And actually what plays out sometimes in this arena is just a little kind of, competitive, like holding the flag in the game, like a football team type mentality, we're better than you type thing. And look how nice my life is, and I'm so happy here. And, I was looking at a quote the other day, and it's like, we've got a society of real happy photos, but really sad on the inside.
Because everyone shows the best,
yeah.
best side on social media. You're not going to
all
filters and
pretty and lovely, whereas behind closed doors, it's not actually like that, is it?
No.
And that's for everyone's life. It's not always that lovely photo that you put on social media.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you can photo, you can filter it, and gives you maybe a very tiny momentary sense of yay. And then maybe you see some comments or whatever, I don't know. But after that, just trying to seek the next thing. It's not fulfilling.
But like you said though, the comparison, a lot of people do compare themselves to social media, those happy lifestyles, when it's not realistic, is it? It's not normal. That isn't how everyone lives their lives. That's not probably how those influencers live their lives either. So I just think,
it's sort of a vicious cycle, isn't it? Because that could get you stressed and anxious then, and then you could want your mindfulness, and then you're going back on social media, so you're in a vicious cycle, aren't you?
That's one of the things to be wary of is mindfulness used in the wrong context, or just as a kind of a plaster on a deep wound kind of thing. Like we're in a neoliberal society and a capitalist mentality, so sometimes organisations use things like this and programs as a kind of come on workers, get back to it, there's a mindfulness, get back to it, and not changing the structure behind it of like actually we're working them too hard. You're not mindful enough, but it's nothing to do with the fact that I'm giving you 10 hours of overtime every day. So it's a little bit about it has to balance between ethical organisations wanting the best for their employees. Then if that's felt and experienced, then if there's programs in place, it can be a really positive cultural shift.
So do you think there's more scope for more things happening in the workplace and for social workers, for maybe doctors, a lot of highly stressful professions, policemen? Do you think that may be actually incorporated into your workday?
I think it should be totally. I think before meetings, I think it's certain stressful times to unwind or preempting a difficult environment. I mean, a lot of this too is about, we say stressful professions, but I mean every profession is stressful. And because there's also personal life behind it. And it's like that sometimes can be the biggest source of stress that you bring into the workplace. And so everyone talks about work-life balance, like we know what it really means. But no one really know what it means because it's blurred, isn't it? So I think everywhere there's opportunities for it, but it is about breaking the misconceptions and stereotypes, that it's not religious, that it's not fluffy and airy-fairy. It's very common sense, practical, down-to-earth stuff, and it can really help. But then also, it's not going to save the planet. It's not a superhero.
No, and I think it's also one of those things, it's whether someone wants to access it, whether it's going to work or not, isn't it? If you're not going to be open-minded about it, it's not going to work for you, and it's knowing that as yourself that, well, no, I'm not going to be open-minded to it, so I won't do it.
I always love that Frank Zappa quote of, the mind is like a parachute, it only works if it's open. Love that. And I always think that, this could work and it could have good benefits for you, but you've got to put your own effort in. I think we want a really quick fix nowadays. Right, I'll do this 10 minutes meditation. Am I relaxed? Yeah. Afterwards, how do I feel? That's rubbish. I'll go to the pub instead. That type of, you've got to really commit, because it's a lot like a saying in my research and things, it's a lifelong process.
Mm.
Can't just tick box it after a weekend. Or,
Yeah.
although it would help, the weekend course and the 8-week course and blah blah blah. But really, like, to fully reap the reward, it's about you putting effort in long term.
Continuing that development throughout it, isn't it? Yeah.
It is literally self-development, and you just see it, but ongoing, not with no end point.
It does sound really good.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So anyone can do mindfulness. Is there any special equipment that you need?
Any equipment? You've got the most expensive equipment here, the nose, your breath, invaluable resource. So
do you have to sit? Is it preferable to sit up, to lie down?
The actual practicality of doing a guided meditation, you can sit up, on a chair, you can lie down, you can sit cross-legged, and you just have to utilise this amazing resource, and it's free.
That's another thing we're not used to in society.
I know. I want to buy something to make me do it better. No, actually, you don't need to. So we've got it all. You've got it all. You've got it all.
Yeah.
It's there to access, but whether we choose to access it or not is a different question. And so it's about us becoming aware of that and then utilising it the best possible. And different methods. I mean, people do mindful walking courses and things like that. You might enjoy it in different contexts. But I would recommend, 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, and then in the day just becoming more aware of your breath, more aware of yourself and how your emotions are in a particular moment. And then allowing this kind of process to happen and let going as well, not holding on to things. The out breath is a good tool of let it all go. But you're doing so consciously, not like because you have to, or someone's told you to, or you feel you should, and then being guilty about it. You're just fully letting go, so you can then get to the next moment.
So does it almost become second nature then, more that you practice?
Well, I guess it could do, it could override. I think there's a great meme, and it's of this monk, and he's swearing at some traffic, and it says like he forgot his morning meditation or something. And it's a little bit like noticing actually who you are when you do stuff a bit more consciously than when you don't. And certainly I can be a bit more like ratty or angry or edgy if I haven't practiced that morning that day, and it's just something that you're aware of. But I guess the more and more you do it, the more natural it is, the more you'll feel like it's part of you and part of your habit and routine, and then the less likely it's a thing that's out there. It's just part of who you are.
Okay. So we've got your book with us today. Why Mindfulness Is Not Enough
Why
by
it's not
Dr.
enough.
Joey Webber. So would you like to tell us a little bit about...
Well, I just spent all the time picking it up and I'm saying it's not enough. So I've done this book based upon my PhD research, which was actually into the construct of equanimity. See that word here? And this is like...
Quite a big word.
It's a word we're not really familiar with.
No. Explain to us what if I can say it, equanimity is.
Well, what it comes from is the fact that how mindfulness has been made secular. I've looked at a construct called equanimity, and I've tried to create a secular version of that. It how I've looked at it has got its roots in Buddhism, but I've tried to make it secular because I think it's more to do with the judgmental part of who we are. Because when you say non-judgmental, don't be judgmental, it's branded about all the time and it's expected of others. But I think it's
social work principle.
Be non-judgmental. But it's impossible. We are judgmental.
Yeah, I think unconscious bias we have, don't we?
Unconscious biases. Yeah. We are judgmental beings, just being alive and judging. So it's not saying you can't do it, but we need to really look at that concept a bit more. So I feel that equanimity shows us how to be more non-judgmental. It actually changes the term a little bit because it asks you to look at your judgments and then with wisdom let them go with a bit of insight and compassion. Like there's a reason why you're looking at your judgments too. So that's why the book's called Why Mindfulness Is Not Enough, Unlocking Compassion with Equanimity. Because you're not necessarily going to become a more compassionate person just by following your breath and relaxing yourself. But there might be an offshoot in certain programs that are developed implicitly. So I want to be a bit more explicit with, look, this term we can generate it more. So it's perfect for social workers because in environments which will have elicit lots of judgment tones, you want to pay respect to those before letting them go, rather than feeling, oh, I'm judging this person, but I know I'm not supposed to. I'm now a bad person. And you're turning the judgment on yourself.
Yeah, I think I get a lot of anxiety because there's a lot of self judgment. I think, oh, people are going to be laughing at me if I can't do this, or looking at me if I can't do that. I think that brings anxiety, and I think if you can let that go, be kinder to yourself, let that judgment go. I think
self-compassion is a big part of it too.
I think that helps.
Yeah, it is.
Because the truth of it, no one's even probably looking at you or even bothered. But you're thinking, you think inwards and you think, oh, everyone's looking, and everyone's thinking, she's not good at that, she's not good at this. And when really they're bothered about what they're having for the tea.
I think we all have senses of feelings like that, don't we? Like where we think, oh, the whole world's judging us, and in actual fact, we're actually judging ourselves. And do you think it's more about acknowledging why you've got those judgments, and then letting go of them, like saying, I've got this judgment, and I've got this judgment because of this, and then you can let go.
Perfect. Yeah. This kind of, when I say wisdom, insight, it's about understanding your context. So you're having a judgment because of something, because of who you think you are, perhaps, or perhaps Mummy and Daddy told you, or parent and carer, someone at school, the environment you grew up in, the media, the government. You're judging a situation based upon not just a truth, so to speak, but a fabricated perspective. So to be aware of that, oh, I'm judging. I want to be kind to this person. I want to be compassionate to this person, right? Even though I'm judging them negatively, I'm not going to allow my mind to become identified with that, and I'm now going to let this go because I want to be with this person and I want to help them. Yeah. That's like inner equanimity and outer equanimity blurring together as like helping. But it's very, very subtle, and it's a little bit about not judging your judgments, but turning towards them, like you said, recognizing them, acknowledging them, embracing them, and then letting go. That insight's really key because it's telling us information.
And I think it's the way with your feelings as well. Sometimes just acknowledging that, oh, I feel angry today. Why do I feel angry? It can, instead of like going around like, oh, I'm angry today, and all that, you're acknowledging that you're feeling it. I think that can make you feel better as well. Just acknowledging sometimes your feelings and why you feel that way can really help subside that feeling.
Totally, yeah. It's all about the acknowledgement and the willingness to accept what's there. And once you've done this whole acceptance process, then this whole letting go is easier. What happens is, because we have so many thoughts and judgments, parts of the thoughts and self-critical thoughts and I'm no good, blah, blah, blah. We're not, first of all, we might not be fully aware of the severity of what's happening. Then when we become aware, it's quite like, wow, it's quite bleak. But we're trying to look good in front of society. So we're trying to present something that's potentially not the same as happening inside. So by observing that whole process and being kinder to yourself and having this open, accepting attitude towards your own judgments, but with a benchmark of like, right, I'm trying to be compassionate, then this whole letting go, and feelings are part of that too. So a lot of the time we suppress feelings and withdraw, distract. That's why social media, everything's so popular, because it assists us in escaping some of the pain we might feel, or even on a tiny level. So by going like into it with our feelings, we're actually helping ourselves and others quite tremendously.
So thank you, Dr. Joey. So if anybody wants to purchase your book, is that from Amazon.
You can get it in all them big retailers, or you can get it directly from me, which I prefer.
Okay.
And they can sign it and pretend that I'm an actual author.
The book shows that you're an actual author.
Yeah, you're a real author.
I'm a real boy.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's been a really good insight.
Yeah, Taz. Yeah, thanks for coming in today. So
thanks for having it, and I hope it's going to be part of an ongoing series that'll be useful. Kind of introductory stuff, but then maybe come up with specific questions helpful for social work and scenarios, case studies. Make it focused because there's a lot of podcasts. What is mindfulness? What is this? So it's good to have this now to set the context, but then let's hone in and dig deep on specific issues.
Yeah, great, wonderful. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.